What makes you, you? I mean, really, what is it that shapes your unique way of thinking, feeling, and acting? Today, we're going to dive deep into that huge, fascinating puzzle of personality. This is one of the oldest questions in all of psychology. Are we basically a product of our genes, just born a certain way? Or are we more like blank slates, molded by all of our experiences? That's the core question we're going to tackle by looking at a few really powerful theories.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to explore three major theories that try to answer this big question, looking at how our environment, our mind, and our culture each play a really crucial role. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, our first stop is the behaviorist view. And this one argues that you are pretty much literally what you learn. This theory suggests that to understand personality, you don't need to look inside someone's mind. You just have to look at the world around them.
I mean, that's a really bold claim, right? Behaviorists argue that ideas like free will and choice are basically illusions. Instead, they believe our personalities is just the sum total of everything we've learned through rewards, punishments, and just watching the world. So the key word there is condition. Think about it like this. When you were a kid, maybe you were praised for sharing your toys. Well, that praise, that reward, made you more likely to share again. According to behaviorists like B.F. Skinner, our entire personality is just built from thousands and thousands of these little conditioning moments.
From the moment we're born, all these forces, parental approval, pressure from our friends, social rules, they're constantly shaping what we want. We learn what to desire and what to avoid based entirely on the feedback we get from our world. So in this view, we're not choosing to be generous or ambitious, we're actually being conditioned by society to be that way.
But hold on a second. This feels a little incomplete, doesn't it? What about our inner world? Our dreams, our personal values, the way we think about ourselves. Surely that has to count for something. And this is exactly where our next theory comes into play.
And that leads us to the power of the mind. See, social learning theory agrees that, the environment is super important, but it argues we aren't just these passive sponges. This theory brings our mind right back into the picture. You can almost think of this theory as a bridge. It says, yes, of course, we learn from our environment, but how we interpret that environment is what truly matters. It introduces the idea that our thoughts, our cognitions, are a key piece of this whole personality puzzle.
And these internal factors aren't just vague ideas. They're concrete things. We're talking about your skills, what you're actually good at, your personal values. So for example, if you really value good grades, you're going to study harder. It's also about your ability to set goals for yourself and to predict what might happen. These are all active mental processes that shape you.
And this brings us to a really powerful concept, self-efficacy. This is simply your belief in your own ability to succeed. Think about it. If you believe you can do something, you're so much more likely to try it, to stick with it when things get tough, and to ultimately succeed. This one single belief about yourself can dramatically shape your actions and, over time, your entire personality.
So we've looked at outside forces and we've looked at our inside thoughts. Now let's zoom out, way out, to our final perspective, the sociocultural approach. This view basically argues that you just can't understand a person without understanding their world. This theory brings in all the big picture factors. We're talking about the culture you grew up in, your ethnic background, your gender. All of these things combine to create the context for your life, and that context profoundly influences who you become, from your social attitudes all the way to your personal ambitions.
A perfect example of this is the difference between individualistic and collectivistic cultures. So in a culture like the United States, there's this huge emphasis on personal achievement and being your own person. But in many other cultures, the focus is much more on the group, the family, the community, and this one fundamental difference can shape everything from how you see yourself to what you strive for in life.
And the influence doesn't stop there. Our cultures shape our attitudes about everything from sharing to competition. For people who move to a new country, the process of acculturation or adapting literally reshapes them. And what's really fascinating is some research suggests that being bicultural, being fluent in two cultures, can actually be a source of strength and might even lead to higher self-esteem.
Okay, so we've looked at three totally different lenses: the environment, the mind, and society. So how in the world do we put all these pieces together to answer that original question? Who are you?
Let's do a quick recap. The behaviorist view says you're shaped by your environment through conditioning. The social learning theory comes in and adds that your own mind, your goals, your beliefs, acts as a critical filter. And then the sociocultural approach zooms out and reminds us that your society provides the backdrop for everything else. So here's the real takeaway. Your personality isn't some simple thing determined by one single factor. It's a dynamic, living interplay, like a constant dance between what happens to you, how you think about what happens to you, and the wider world that you live in. All three of these theories are part of the story.
And that brings this whole thing right back to you. As you think about your own life, which of these forces feels the most powerful? Was it the conditioning you received as a kid? Is it your own internal beliefs and goals? Or maybe the cultural values you were raised with? There's no single right answer. And honestly, that's what makes each and every one of us so endlessly fascinating. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.